Hey folks, this is Matt Rainwater here, and today I am working on that promotional banner that I've been talking about. I talked about last video and also posted on the Patreon. The background for this is just what you see right here is just a reference file I have for Jake. Um, I have this open because I wanted to reference the colors for him. We're gonna go check out what I've been working on so far. So yeah, this is the idea for Trailer Park Warlock Season 3. I still have to figure out where I'm gonna put the logo for Trailer Park Warlock. Probably somewhere in here. I don't wanna cover up this mountain though. I wanna preserve as much as I can of it. So I'm just gonna start off here and oh my goodness, my eyesight. I don't know what's up with my eyes the last day or so. I feel like I have allergies and my eyes have been puffy and just like my eyesight's a little blurrier than usual. It's not like terrible. It's just like I notice the difference. Uh, when you're using your eyes a lot, you notice when they're not working at full capacity. And as I'm getting older, that becomes more and more evident, or I become more and more aware of it. I don't know if it's because I'm becoming older, or what I wonder is my eyesight just getting worse, and it's not like a matter of whether or not I'm aware of it. It's just like it's exponentially just falling apart. But I don't think that's the issue. Hope that's not the issue. Don't wanna don't wanna deal with macular degeneration this soon in my life. So anyway, point being, I am gonna start by flatting Jake here, getting all that figured out, which is nothing to figure out. It's pretty straightforward. I've done this so many times that just a matter of getting it done. All right. I'm glad that originally I did this because I was asked to by my editor. He wanted some character design assets to pull from for something we were doing at the beginning of publishing on Webtoon, and I honestly can't remember, but it happened. We did it. I don't remember why we did it, but we did it, and I'm glad that we have it because it's useful for me. Even though I don't use it that often, I generally now I just kind of pull reference from just finished pages, and that's all I really need. All right, this bucket, it's got like a flesh color right now. I'm not into that. It's weird. Okay, well, let's go darker, like that. That's good. So yeah, I don't know if you're a Bob Ross aficionado like me, you'll probably understand the concept behind this banner to some degree. I think at this point, we put this at full opacity. Oh yeah, that's gonna look great. I still have to finish flattening this brush though. Oh my gosh, my stomach. I'm actually very hungry this morning, but I have myself on a pretty strict schedule. I don't eat until 12. It's not really, I wouldn't call it intermittent fasting because I usually have a snack around what? What time do I usually eat a snack in the evening? Usually around 8 or 9. I'll have like a snack of like some fruit, grapes and an orange, stuff like that. Last night, okay, there are these really yummy. like Quaker Oat. It's like a Quaker Oats cereal. It's I forget what it's called. It's like maple squares or something like that. But they're just crunchy and sweet and delicious. So if you're into like maple sweetness, it's the only carbs I'll allow myself to eat. I don't know if y'all signed up for this conversation, but um, yeah, I eat a pretty low carb diet with exception to like random sweets. And it's just like for me right now it's because I've been losing weight. I had put on a lot of weight over the last 10 years and my body was not appreciating it. And when you're like, when you're doing a job where you're sitting at your desk for long periods at a time, your body starts to let you know it doesn't like what's going on. And that's what was happening for me. And this wire is in my way. Come on, get out of the way. Yeah, so that was what was happening for me. Is I was not feeling happy in my body. So I've been doing exercises to help with that. I've talked about this in a previous video because I was also having like some major like body joint type issues, especially in my shoulders. And in my drawing arm, in my right arm, I was having some issues. And a year ago, my right arm was in, I'd say considerable, well, I say right arm, my right shoulder was in considerable pain. And I'd have days where I couldn't sleep on my right side. Yeah, because I'm right-handed. And sorry, I need some water real quick. Excuse me. Got something in my throat, back of my throat. But like I was saying, I couldn't even sleep on my right side. It was really bad. So I started a regimen of stretching, starting from the easiest to do stuff. And I started, I have, like every morning I start with, what is it, 3 stretches? And I do those every single morning. They help loosen my shoulder, my back, my arms up, because those are the parts of my body that I use the most. And then for a while, I did yoga really intensely, and I still do yoga, but I don't do it as much as I used to. Now I'm doing more calisthenic, more strength training type stuff. And my goal with that is that my logic is, well, okay, so what I need to do is I need to strengthen my back. I need to strengthen my arms, condition them just to be, more resilient, more sturdy. And they were in bad, they were in bad shape. Like that's the thing about my life is I was not a very active child. I was and I wasn't. I played a lot of video games, and it was fun, but it has its drawbacks. And when you're a child, who cares, right? You're just having fun. Beating Star Fox 64 on expert level, that kind of thing. And around high school, I made a pretty huge change. I say around high school, it was specifically junior year of high school. I think I made a pretty specific change to my life. I had gone to, I had a doctor's visit, and I was told that I had high blood pressure, and I was like, I'm in high school. High blood pressure? What? And like, my health, my diet was not great. It was terrible, in fact, generally speaking. Um, so I made some pretty big changes and started exercising. And I mean, in high school, what that meant was start with a couple different things. First of all, one major thing that happened is that me and my friends got into Dance Dance Revolution, and that was a game changer for everything. And there are some of y'all around my age who probably could relate. There might be a couple of y'all who are younger and may have not. Either that was not really part of your high school experience or whatever. But at the time, this was like right when this was 2002. No, this was 2001, 2002. So this is, I mean, DDR had been around for a little bit, but this was like right when it was breaking into kind of the home market, so to speak. So the actual like pads that you can buy for your home were starting to become available, and it started. I think that's honestly when it started taking off because it didn't. I mean, arcades were not doing that well even in the aughts. Arcades were starting to slide in attendance, so to speak. Um, but I would definitely say that Dance Dance Revolution didn't even show up in the arcades until in the United States until, or at least in Lake Charles. Maybe this is different if you're living in a bigger city. Like maybe if you're living in Los Angeles, your experience is totally different. But I'm speaking more from growing up in a smaller town, uh, in Louisiana, where I mean we even got coronavirus behind everybody else, like weeks behind everybody else. If that gives you an idea of sort of how things are in Louisiana. We're just it's a bit slower in this state. So anyway, my point being, what was I saying? Dance Dance Revolution. Yeah, it was taken off, and so me and my friends had gotten into it, and that helped me lose a lot of weight because I was playing that game with an obsession. And then from there, like actually started doing more. I started doing more just like traditional exercising. So like started going to a gym and swimming regularly. I'm trying to remember how often I swam. And it wasn't every day. It was like maybe 3 times a week. I started doing like weight machine type stuff. I don't do weight machine stuff now. I actually really prefer doing the calisthenic type stuff now. But anyway, I'm sorry, I'm getting in the way of the story. So yeah, at the time I was doing like weight machine stuff, and all that really helped. Like I went from, I think I was either 220 or 215 all the way down. The lowest I ever weighed was 160, and I actually went too far. Like I had family and friends being like, Matt, you've lost too much weight. You've gone too far. And I was really skinny, and I kind of, I think part of that was like I had sort of, I mean, I was in an obsessed mindset at the time, and I was exercising incredible amounts, playing DDR like a fanatic. My lunch largely just consisted of like wheat thins and cheddar cheese cubes. It's you're not going to be able to survive off of that. And my dinner wasn't even, I just didn't eat a lot either. I was kind of a wreck actually during that particular year in high school. My senior year I was probably the most level-headed in my high school years. But anyway, All right, so that's done. I need to do reflections now. So anyway, my point being, um, my point being, did I have a point to this story? My point being is, so I already have I've already always had an idea of how to take care of my body from that experience, but what I did, like 10 years ago, which was a really foolish idea, is I just had this thought, I had this idea in my mind that like, oh well, it was so easy in high school, I could do it again, no problem. I didn't really take into account that as you get older, so like I'm 34 now, as you get older, it gets harder to lose weight. It becomes easier to put on weight. And I mean, I'm not even, the weight thing isn't even that important. What's more important is whether or not you have a proper muscular system to support your body, support your frame, etc., etc. That's the most important part. And I just, I all my muscles had kind of atrophied over time because I just wasn't doing anything. I mean, I was doing stuff, but I wasn't doing anything that was good for my body for the most part. Hard years in Portland, Oregon, but anywho, I am feeling better, which is the good thing. Like my body's in better shape. It's not. I would not say it's in the best shape it's ever been. Working towards that, but right now I would not say it's the best shape it's ever been in. No. That's my goal though, for sure. Because I don't want my health being a factor getting away of me being able to create, being able to do this thing that I love doing. And I don't know, I looking back, I kind of feel like, oh, I came kind of close to that happening. Especially when I was having that like severe shoulder pain. Like I definitely had moments where I was like, oh, will I be able to even do this? Like, will I be able to continue this line of work? Because I don't know if I'd say it's physically tasking I mean, it is physically tasking on certain parts of your body, but it does take a certain amount of I'm going to use the word endurance, and I don't know if it's the proper word to use, but I'm going to use it. It does take a certain amount of endurance to do the required amount of drawing that you need to do in a day if you're doing it full time, which I am right now. And hope to for a very long time. But it takes an incredible amount of endurance to do it. And so, and the reason I say that is it takes a lot of endurance to draw. I mean, not just physical endurance, like mental endurance too, because you get tired. Like, for example, yesterday, let's see, I started drawing pages around, I would say 1 in the afternoon. That's typically when I start. I work anywhere between 6 hours to 10 hours. It depends on the day. But yesterday I worked probably around 7. And the last the last 2 hours were hard. They were very hard. And and they're hard because I was feeling tired. I was feeling fatigued after all the drawing, but I knew I had to finish what I had set for myself if I was to keep my deadline. And that's always the hardest part with. I think we might be done. That's always the hardest part with any kind of art type job, any art type career, is the deadline aspect of it. It's kind of intimidating at times because when you also take into account that you still have like the rest of your life that you have to live, like you have to cook your food, take care of your bills, do your taxes, go to the DMV, all the other, bureaucratic BS that you have to take care of in a day. When you put that all together, you kind of go, oh, how am I supposed to make all this, how am I supposed to make all this make sense? Like, how am I supposed to do this in an 8-hour period of time? And a lot of times, you don't. A lot of times it's more than 8 hours. And sometimes it's less than 8 hours. Kind of depends on the day. It depends on what's on your plate. Depends on what you have going on. And that can be difficult because, your energy level's not always there. Everybody gets tired. You get fatigued. You get worn out just by life, being a life, right? So it does take a certain amount of cultivation to do an art career. It takes a certain amount of cultivation of just like, I'm going to call it, nurturing your spirit. I don't know what else to call it, but I'll just call it that. And I say nurturing your spirit because spirit is the term I'll use for like when people say energy. Just, your general ability and disposition. So like how you feel mentally, emotionally, how you feel in your body, and how you feel in terms of like your long-term vision for your future. All those things have to, there's probably even more aspects of that I'm leaving out. So I guess another way of saying, when I say spirit, I sort of mean holistically yourself. So you got to be in the right mindset for it. And that's not easy. Not easy at all. Trying to set up another thing to do right now. I might finish with y'all in a second, but I wanted to finish off this little spiel I got going. So anyway, my point being, I'm always losing the point. My point being, and it's not just an art career. It's there are a lot of careers like that where if you're doing anything where you're self-employed, where you own your own business, it's a tough road to plow. It's there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's a tough road to plow. So, and I don't know. I always kind of hate these sort of talks, but it's true, and I don't want to. If you have like your own business that you want to do, your own dreams, ambitions, goals, do it. It is worth doing, but I will also say it is a struggle sometimes. It is tough sometimes, and the probability of you succeeding in what you want to do is vastly improved by how together your entire personage is. Is your health in good shape? I would say that's start there, because that's, in my mind, that's the most basic place to start. Because that's where your daily habits influence your future. So, is your health in good shape? And then you can start asking yourself, is my mind in good shape? Like, do I have some mental illness issues? I just personally speaking, I do have some mental health issues. I have, I would say in the last 7 years, well, even before that, the last 10 years I've dealt with a certain amount of depression, which, for a short but intense period of time, was a period of time where I was dealing with suicidal ideation, some amount of just really, really desperate mindset. That was when I first moved to Portland, Oregon, and when I lived in Portland, and the weather in Portland didn't help, because I moved there like in November. That was November of 2011, and there's two types of weather in Portland: beautiful, dry, sunny, and then gray, wet, dreary. And that's when I moved to Portland. And at first I was like, oh, great, this is great weather for creating. But I had moved to Portland not knowing anybody there, and I was completely by myself. I called people, called friends and family, tried to like deal with that, but even with all those resources, it takes its toll. I was living in downtown Portland in an apartment and by myself, and having, neighbors who were smoking in the building, people struggling with homelessness outside, screaming at all hours of the night. After a while, it kind of takes a toll on your mental landscape, your mental health. My mental health at the time was already not that great anyway. So, I had a pretty big mental spiral at that time. It was pretty bad. And so then some things changed, life happened, and then in the last couple of years, I've come out of what has been a really difficult and just in retrospect now, it's turned out to be a very traumatic relationship that I was in, and I have a lot of anxiety issues from it still. And that has been my current like mental health thing that I've been dealing with. I try and find different ways of dealing with it. Exercise definitely helps. I feel like I'd benefit from still going to some counseling again. It would help me kind of process a couple of things. Like my mental health is after moving back to Louisiana, being around family and friends, my mental health is like way better than it was in Portland. It was bad. It was like really bad. My anxiety was at a place where I'm not even sure how I was doing half the things that I was doing. But I would also like to add too, if you're reading Trailer Park Warlock Season 2 and you're like, where is this even coming from? A lot of Season 2 is me processing, in my own weird way, processing a lot of that, a lot of the difficulties of the last 5 to 7 years. I guess you could say 10 years. Um, I have, and I've talked about this before with Bat Monster, because Bat Monster also is, Bat Monster is the most intense form of art therapy that I've done, which is why it's totally inscrutable. But I do have this tendency to think that good art can come from taking personal experience and attempting to sublimate it, or attempting to form it into a more generalized experience, something that other people can relate to, etc., etc. I don't want to be like too, what's the word? Like, I don't want to ever be preachy with what I'm doing, but I do want to talk about what's on my mind, even if it's in very vague, subtle ways. And I would say, for sure, the character of, really both the character of Jacques Pontou and the character of Ravenstone. They're both they both represent different character types that I have personally found myself attracted to in different ways, not just like romantic attraction, but like, just like personality attraction. Um, so another way of putting it, like, I personally have had this thing of like, um, having sympathy for people who are maybe not the nicest to other people. And largely that's been a mindset for me of thinking, well, maybe it's just because they've had a rough patch of it and they just need some kind of kindness and goodness in their life, and that will change the course of where their life is going. And unfortunately, what I've learned, maybe this isn't always true, and I certainly hope it's not always true, but what I've learned so far is that that capacity for change has to come, that has to come from within. It can't be. There's nothing. There's nothing you can do to change people who are going to be crappy to you. And I talk about that. I mean, those themes are a little bit in there, but they're not like overt at all, I would say, in season 2. And also, like, where season 2 goes is kind of different and more esoteric, but those are like some of the thoughts that go uh, into writing it, and how I'm approaching this season. Now, next season will probably be a little bit different. And I'm thinking a lot about season 3 and how I'm going to write it. And I think I want generally a lot of the themes of season 3 to be closer to the themes in season 1, but better. Better in what way? I'm not sure yet. I'm still at the beginning stages of like writing out what's going to happen in season 3. What is that? What? That doesn't make any sense. Sorry. Writing out season 3. I've only just started on like an overview, and that is the most basic, like, and I'm writing out stuff like, Jake goes to a sacred arts festival with Herman. Like, that's it. You can't really do a whole lot with that. So I have to, make more of it, and have it make more. Oh, that's what's going on. Whoops. Have it make more sense, and that's what I'm doing right now. But anyway, my point being, I think thematically for season 3, I want it to go more towards self improvement. That is like a general. That's a general story arc theme that I want to go with anyway. Because, I mean, we have Jake, who's, when we first meet Jake, he's doing all right. But over time, we kind of clearly see, like, he's got his problems. And season 2 is about his problems with his past. I mean, basically, he had a curse that he put off doing anything about. And that also comes into play with the warlock he apprenticed under, who had his own fair share of problems that he put off and didn't take care of. And so it was one of those things where it affected literally everybody around them, both for Jake and Pontu. But for Jake, it's different because he was just kind of caught into it, and whether or not it's obvious, both Jake and Pontu are kind of metaphorically have curses that are sort of metaphors for trauma in different ways. Like for Jake, he has trauma that is specific. I'm just using this as a metaphor. Within the story, it's a curse, right? But as in metaphorically speaking, he has trauma that once the band-aid is taken off, i.e. the collar, and the spur guy steals his collar, he turns into a wild animal. And I guess I wrote it like that because that is kind of how I have felt with my own issues, where it's like I struggle to have control of my own mind. Now nothing like, nothing where I'm like ripping or tearing or whatever. It's just like, oof, anxiety is rough. Where it's just like, I don't feel like I have complete control over my mind. And that was sort of where that idea came from. Anyway, this is something I'll cover a little bit more in the future. It's interesting too because I don't know, like, I feel like ultimately Trailer Park Warlock is it's kind of lighthearted, right? Like, it gets a little serious in season 2. I prefer to veer away from the seriousness overall, as much as I can, but I do kind of want to delve into it just a little bit. Just like, dip my toes in. Just because I like having depth to the characters that I write. And I mean, also on a more selfish reason, as y'all just heard, like, it's a way for me to kind of talk about vaguely obtusely talk about experiences in my own life. So anyway, if you have any thoughts about what I've talked about, feel free to leave a comment. I'd love to hear from y'all. If y'all have experienced any difficulties with mental health, what y'all have been doing to deal with those difficulties, how you've come to learn and deal and heal, right? Like, all that stuff. Please feel free to leave a comment. I'd love to hear from y'all. And with that, I think I'm going to close out. I'm going to be spending another 5 to 10 minutes trying to fix this. Anyway, thanks for hanging out, y'all, and I hope y'all have a good day, and I will talk to y'all later, okay? All right, bye.